Munetaka Murakami is a White Sox. Does that change the win expectations for 2026? We'll talk about all this and more on the CHGO White Sox show. Welcome into CHGO White Sox podcast, coming to you live from Studio West of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, being produced today by my pal, Sarah.
Hi.
Who's extremely tired, and that's what you get for producing a Bears show at like 1:30 in the morning because they're on Sunday Night Football, but well worth it.
Oh, well,
is it worth it?
I always say those nights are more worth it with wins, and
Fair.
We have been very spoiled, so it's
Fun
fine.
game.
Oh, great game.
The worst was
Great
when
game.
you'd stay up and just watch them get their ass kicked.
I will say it is always worth staying up as long as I need be for the beautiful CHGO sports fans.
Well, and I'd rather have a loss like that than the Commanders' loss where they lose on the Hail Mary on the stupidity last year.
I don't like that game.
I don't like that game either. But this has been a long journey in the making. Before we get into Munetaka Murakami and how he changes the 2026 White Sox, before we talk about Luis Robert Jr. and him pretty much likely not having a home this offseason, finding a trade partner and being stuck for the White Sox on opening day, we want to talk about our road to 100,000 subscribers. I think we're about 700 away or so. There you go. You got the number right there. We're at 99,306 subscribers. I'm pretty sure Daniel Barry, pretty sure Antonio, pretty sure Shy Sox Anthony are already subscribed. If you aren't, though, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We are under 700 subscribers away from 100,000, a huge milestone for YouTube channels. I think Jake said not even 1% of channels get to that milestone. And there's a really cool plaque that we're going to get. And I can't lie, being somebody who's watched several YouTube channels for the past 15 years, seeing a silver play button, even though it's mostly the Bears content that has gotten us there, I'm extremely proud of what
I
we've been
absolutely
able to do.
disagree with that, Sean. Are you forgetting that you are the first show that reached 1 million on one of our shorts was a Chicago White Sox YouTube short, and it was when Mike Tauchman got injured?
Up lame. Yeah, Mike Tauchman pulled up lame against the Cleveland Guardians, and the Sox didn't win that game.
That was a Sox short.
That was a Sox short.
The Bears have never done that yet.
So there you go. Bears.
Well, they've reached millions many times, but we did it first.
And if you do want to be along with us tomorrow, we are pretty much going to be honing in on 100,000 subscribers. We're going to be doing a live stream starting at 11 a.m. from this studio. Several CHGO personalities. I think Jay Zawoski will be leading it. Some of the Bears guys will be on the start of the show, but we'll be leading up to hopefully the inevitable point where we reach 100,000 subscribers. I know it's been a long journey as well. We are past the year point of where this show changed pretty drastically last year. I know those two guys are doing well. Herb was just out in San Francisco, watched that very important and impressive and entertaining game in San Francisco. And I know Vinny is doing well in his own personal life. I appreciate you if you've been riding with us for the past year. If you've been with us since the beginning as well, whenever you jumped on, we are very, very appreciative of your support. Last week was a very great week for CHGO White Sox. Seeing the response to Murakami is very, very exciting. Hopefully, the disdain that's built up for the White Sox over the past couple of years is wearing off, because I think this is a very fun team, or hopefully it's a fun team. Let's get into it. Some Zips projections for the 2026 team, kind of projecting where this team may be. My thought, just looking at Will Venable's journey as a head coach, taking over a team that lost 121. No, I understand, KJ. When when they signed Murakami, or before they signed Murakami, sorry, I'm getting my thoughts. Before they signed Murakami, my thought process was that they would probably this year aim for around 72 and 90. He took over after the 121 loss season. Then this year got them to close to 100 losses. There was a point there where I thought they could possibly be a sub 100 loss team, but finishing at 102, a 19 win increase, very acceptable for Will Venable in his first year as manager at the helm. I think a 12 win increase next year, getting them to around 90 losses, would have been acceptable before the Murakami signing. With it seeming likely that Luis Robert Jr. will be playing in center field for the Chicago White Sox come 2026, I think there's a far range that you can expect with the White Sox. First up, with the Robert news, it does seem unlikely that he will be a Cincinnati Red this year. They signed J.J. Bleday, former Athletic, and then they just traded for a Marlin. Can't think of his name right now. He's about 27. He's mostly like a fringe outfielder, but it does seem like they acquired other outfielders. Seemed like the Robert talk with the Reds was getting somewhere, but it didn't get anywhere, if you know what I mean. Reports were getting talked up, but it never got anywhere. And it seemed like the Reds have made a decision to move on. I don't think the Mets are going to be a team that can talk the White Sox into taking on money. I don't think that the Phillies are interested in dealing with Chris Getz. The Pirates seem to have moved on. They made a trade for an outfielder. I can't remember specifically right now. And they signed O'Hearn as well. It does seem like most teams have gone away from Luis Robert Jr., which I don't think necessarily is a bad thing. Chris Getz said that they are committed to Luis Robert Jr. If you were willing to pick up that $20 million option to entertain trade offers, that's fine. But you also have to be willing to put that $20 million player out in center field, because if you're not putting him in center field, you're relying on Brooks Baldwin, whose main value is his utility, into one of the most important places on the diamond, if not the fourth most important behind shortstop, catcher, and pitcher. Robert gives you such a sense of security. We know that the top end potential hasn't been reached with him, but even being an above average defender in center field, above average base stealer, around a 20% worse than average hitter, he could provide value. What we want is obviously to see him 120 weighted runs created plus with the above average defense, with the above average stealing, so then they could trade him. But what I'm leading up to is it seems likely that Robert will be the center fielder. Seems likely that Benintendi will be left field / DH. Colson's your shortstop. Majdro's your second baseman. Third base, it seems like right now, will be Miguel Vargas. First base, obviously, Munetaka Murakami. Catcher, Teal Caro. DH, split between Benintendi on a day off from the outfield, Teal and Caro, whoever they're trying to get at bats that specific day. Right field seems like an issue, but when you look at what the White Sox did post July 1, 2025, from a hitting perspective, the White Sox were 21st in Major League Baseball, 7.5 WAR put up, right around where the Twins and Tigers were. I know that's not crazy, but what we did see from them is a ton of home run potential. Teal showed it. Montgomery obviously showed it. Robert didn't start off hot, but finishing around 14, especially what he did post All-Star break, we all know that he has 40 home run potential. It's just mostly about getting there. I think this is going to be a very tough team for Zips to nail down, these projection models to nail down, because when you look at the 80th percentile outcomes or the 20th percentile outcomes, these players can really be anywhere. These players are so inconsistent and have so much potential that Murakami could come over and he could be a Chris Carter-like player where he's got a sub 200 batting average and 30 home runs and is an average major league hitter. Fangraphs, though, Zips is projecting him to have 126 weighted runs created plus And if you look at the first baseman last year that had 126 plus, that's like the 10th first baseman in baseball, putting up around 3 WAR. Right now, Zip's projection, or at least back in November before they signed Murakami, they were projecting Lenin Sosa, Miguel Vargas, and Curtis Mead to put up 0.7 WAR. So there's like a 2 WAR increase right there. If you're looking at what the White Sox hitters did throughout the year last year, they were 29th in baseball, 6.1 WAR. At least they weren't the Colorado Rockies at negative 3.7 WAR. It can be a negative number on the year. But if you were to change out Lenin Sosa's 0.7 WAR that he gave you last year, and the terrible production that they got from first base with Andrew Vaughn, adding around 3 WAR would put them above the Nationals and right under the Cincinnati Reds when it comes to batting WAR. A positive season for Munetaka Murakami, and I would say that the 126 weighted runs created plus is probably like a 60th percentile outcome, right? Like a little above an average projection. If Murakami comes over and has like 113 weighted runs created plus, 450 slugging percentage, 230 batting average, 25 homers, something like that. Like, that seems logical. He was maybe closer to 30 homers, maybe a little higher batting average, higher slugging percentage. Maybe he gets to that 3 WAR level. This is all to say, though, we saw Colson's explosiveness in the later half where he hits 23 homers. It's not crazy to say that he could hit 30 homers. It's not crazy to say Robert can hit 30 homers. I think Teal is probably closer to 20. Not a ton of catchers are hitting 20. I mean, you could probably get about 110 homers from 4 players alone. Benny, over the past 2 years, has been good for about 20. Lenin Sosa, while he shouldn't be an everyday player, hit at 22 last year. The team, if they hit their 80th percentile outcomes, I don't think it's crazy to say that this team, at their best, because I don't think the pitching can be too volatile. I think the pitching's fairly mid. I don't think they're going to be ostensibly terrible. I don't think they're going to be wowing anybody. I think they're going to be fairly, below average. I think last year, I have the number here real quick. Last year, they were 22nd in Major League Baseball, 11.5 WAR. Baltimore was at 10 WAR. There was teams from the Chicago Cubs to Baltimore in between that 13.4 to 10 WAR number. Like, that's where I think the White Sox will be. So if they're able to be around there, and it's really the batting that can take, maybe it's a terrible Luis Robert Jr. season. Maybe it's an incredible Luis Robert Jr. season. Like, that's really what's going to be defining this team. And I think that has a decent amount of excitement to, give you leading into opening day. What can Colson Montgomery do? What can Kyle Teal do? What will Munetaka Murakami do? And Luis Robert Jr., it's like going to the roulette wheel. You want it to hit on red, and it makes sense that 50% of the time it would hit on red, but you keep going up there and it keeps hitting black. At some point, it's got to hit red. We're losing a lot of money, like millions of dollars hitting red, but at some point, this will hit red, right? I just think that the 72 and 90 is the floor for the White Sox. I don't see them signing many more players. I don't think this is a 95 loss team, though. I think if you're looking for a win band on what this team could possibly do, 76 to 70 wins is what I would expect. Probably Vegas will put the win total projection around 71.5. I think this team will, on most nights, be competitive. We saw last year a real killer for them was no high leverage arms. They haven't signed one yet. I don't think they're going to sign one yet. Most of the high leverage arms are gone. Unless Grant Taylor turns into that, they really won't have an elite closer. I think you could expect, improvement from this White Sox team, but I don't think Murakami is going to change the entire direction for the franchise unless everyone is hitting on their 80th percentile outcomes, right? I mean, Murakami could still hit 30 homers, have a 126 weighted runs created plus, and this team could still be around, 72 wins. My projection of 70 and 92 can be, increased by 2 wins, and they're 72 and 90, right? Like, I don't think that there's a massive jump by Murakami, but I think if the excitement from the players are there, like it was in August with Robert, Teal, Montgomery hitting, then maybe we could see a really kind of kumbaya moment where the team really starts to hit their stride, but I think it's outlandish, as Wawa asks here, will the White Sox make the postseason in 2026? It's definitely more possible than last year. I think it was like 0.1%, but it's still like 2 to 4% that they make the playoffs, I think. And that's just my own estimation, BS number. I think it's increased, but I still think even if Robert has a good 2026 in first half, they're still trading their starting center fielder by the trade deadline. So I think that 91 wins is definitely crazy. I think they won't make the postseason in 2026 just because you need every single thing to go right. I think things will go better for the White Sox. I think things are improving, but 12-win increase from last year getting you to around 90 losses is acceptable for Will Venable's second year. If he goes from 19-win increase to 12-win increase, let's take some bite sizes before we try to start, joining eating competitions. Let's take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. If you have any thoughts, let us know in the comments. I'll react to them after the break. We'll talk a little bit more about Luis Robert Jr. We'll talk a little bit more about Munetaka Murakami after the break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We want to let you know about our friends over at Sunnyside Dispensary. They are here to elevate your football season as we approach the playoffs. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free shopping. They have a crazy selection of over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. So stop into the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff, especially if you are a newbie. If you have never imbibed before, they can take you through the menu and help you find which way is the right way to imbibe, which strain would be the right way to imbibe. Head to their website for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. That's 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. For returning customers, use code CHGO50. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois Med card holders. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Four Seasons. For all the right reasons, call 866-4SEASONS. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric has been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Winter is here. It is currently 4 degrees in Chicago. Is your home's heating up for the challenge? If not, you might freeze, and it would be great to call Four Seasons sooner rather than later. Got a plumbing emergency? Call Four Seasons. An electrical emergency? Call Four Seasons. If you need a new hot water tank installed today, call Four Seasons. The last thing you want to do is take a cold shower. Now is the time to schedule your Four Seasons furnace tune-up. Call our friends over at 866-4SEASONS or visit their website at fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. Our friends over at Four Seasons guarantee same-day installation for all your heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and generator needs with no extra charges for nights, weekends, or holidays. Four Seasons, your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric and generators. FourSeasonsHeatingCooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. It's FourSeasonsHeatingCooling.com. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll get to KJ Russell's question in a second. I just want to get to Uncle Ted in a second, who's very optimistic about the Chicago White Sox. Can you scroll up just a little bit? Just a little bit more. Uncle Ted's calling 91 wins. Again, that's a little bit outlandish. Wawa also saying he wasn't asking if the White Sox will win or make the postseason in 2026. He is saying that they will make the postseason in 2026. And Uncle Ted does bring up a fair point that 83 games does make the playoffs this year, right? Or in the past, now that there's more teams in the playoffs, there is a lower threshold and bar for a team to enter. I think that the thing specifically with what I brought up with the 80th percentile outcome is if everything hits and everything goes right for the White Sox, I think they're around 500. And that still is, around 83 wins. It's not even 83 wins if they go 82 and 82. Baseball is wild, but this is a team that's still rebuilding. And it's likely that if Luis Robert Jr. has a decent year, I don't know if it's white flag level. If they're like 68 and 40 something around the trade deadline, maybe they keep him, but that seems utterly ridiculous. No, like they don't have the pitching to be that good, flat out. They're not spending like the Blue Jays, who you bring up. No one expected the Blue Jays to make the World Series last year. The Blue Jays also paid around $258 million to their players in 2025. They have Vladimir Guerrero, who is a perennial MVP. They have George Springer, who's been there and done that. The White Sox don't have a player over 32 years old on their roster, as Elijah Evans pointed out. Gausman is, I don't know, maybe not an ace, but he's really solid. Jose Barrios, again, not an ace, but really solid. The White Sox don't have two pitchers like that. Bassett, maybe they can go sign Chris Bassett, and I wouldn't be against it. But still, a pretty decent, consistently solid player. Kirk is what you hope Kyle Teel will turn into in a way. Different bodies and different players. But if, Kyle Teel hits it like Alejandro Kirk, that would be fantastic. They went out and signed Anthony Santander to a $92.5 million contract, which would still be the most in White Sox history. So I'm not buying that it's the White Sox, Blue Jays year in any way like that. I'm with Ryan. I'll go out on a limb and say they'll have more wins in 2026 than they did in 2025. But yeah, I don't know about 91 wins. Could you scroll up just a little bit though? KJ Russ saying hard to project what the front office is going to do with prospects. Last season drastically changed based on who got called up. Next season, you have to think about Hagen, Noah, and maybe Braden. Braden will be called up, I think. Getz seemed to put him being on the opening day roster on the back burners. But the thing is, the door isn't exactly shut. If it's a battle between Brooks Baldwin and Braden Montgomery for right field, there's a way that you could talk yourself into a platoon of maybe Brooks Baldwin and Braden Montgomery in right field. They haven't closed the door on Braden Montgomery because they haven't went out and signed somebody to do that. There's still a ton of offseason left to go sign like a Randall Grichuk or whoever, like a veteran bat to go play a corner outfield like they did with Tauchman, like they did with Slater. But Braden isn't necessarily off the table because they haven't really done anything in right field. Someone brought up, I think it was Shy Sox Anthony, the White Sox haven't had consistency in right field since Jermaine Dye, which is pretty true. Like Adam Eaton, unfortunately, in 2014 was like the most consistent right fielder that they've had in probably about a decade. They still don't have that player out in right field to hold down that spot. Maybe it can be Braden, but I wouldn't rush that player. Noah and Hagen definitely aren't going to make the opening day roster, but this team is looking for length. This team is looking for players to make starts. If Hagen and Noah show their top 100 potential, and I think especially Noah, if Noah is able to do what the White Sox are looking for him to do, Brian Bannister specifically wanted him to not rely on his cutter so much and work on other pitches. If he's able to maybe sharpen up those pitch shapes and come into spring training with his sharpened pitch shapes, if he has a good 5 to 6 starts in AAA, I definitely think that by June, they're considering calling up Noah. Because at that point, if he's showing all the steps that you wanted him to make, why not challenge him? And the worst thing that you could do is maybe put him into, like a Grant Taylor situation, or maybe even a higher Grant Taylor situation where, maybe you don't have him start, but you have him eat innings against some of the, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters, right? Where you put him into maybe better positions rather than like, hey, let's ask you to get Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and Ben Rice out, right? Like maybe some more digestible spots. But I do think that Noah is probably on a faster track than Hagen. And maybe the only way that they speed up that timeline for both of those players specifically is if they are Uncle Tedding and they are, 68 and 45 or whatever to get out to a crazy start. Like if Noah and Hagen start to show that prowess and the White Sox are in a winning potential or winning facet, I wouldn't doubt that they look on the talent that they have in their organization to maybe feed the team. But at the end of the day, like their growth is what is most important. I wouldn't rule out Sam Antonacci being on the team. It's tough profiles to make work, as Beef Loaf said, that Chase Mydroth and Sam Antonacci being on the same team, you're only going to get about like 5 homers from 1,000 plate appearances from those players. But I don't know if I'm like necessarily giving Miguel Vargas the starting third baseman job. maybe they do a platoon with that position as well if they sign maybe a right fielder that can handle right field alone by himself. But Antonacci's a left-handed batter that gets on base pretty consistently, seemingly can play third base. If Vargas can come in versus right-handers, I mean, that's the thing too. Vargas wasn't even that good against left-handers last year, at least power-wise. So I wonder what they're going to try to do with some of the fringe prospects. Like Tanner McDougal, I feel like Tanner McDougal can pitch at the major league level. Wouldn't hate to see him in the rotation, but I think it's likely he starts out in AAA, and he's more on like a Noah thing. You're probably going to see Tanner McDougal before you see Noah or even Hagen. But that's because I think they don't want to rush either of those two players. But again, it all depends on how they hit the ground running. Again, you can look at the ZiPS projections that were put out by Dan Szymborski over at Fangraphs, projecting Vargas 1.6 F/WAR along with Meade and Tanner Murray taking spots in time at third base. No mention of Antonacci, but they really like Antonacci. At DH, they have Caro, Teal, Benintendi, and Vargas putting up 0.5 WAR. Teal, Caro, and Lee putting up 1.9 WAR behind the plate. Sosa, Vargas, and Meade 0.7 WAR. There's a Fangraphs prediction that's putting Murakami around 3 WAR. 2.5 is probably a little bit more digestible than that. 1.8 F/WAR from Maedroth and Sosa at second base. Montgomery and Maedroth about 2.7 WAR at shortstop. Benintendi, Pereira, and Hill 0.8 WAR in left field. Robert and Hill in center field 2.7 WAR, and then Baldwin, Montgomery, and I can't think of who else are they putting out there. He's Pereira, I think. Just kind of a mishmash of players out in right field. But I think that's the one thing that people are getting away from here. Like, it was surprising that they signed Murakami. I wasn't expecting them to sign a player to over a 15 million AAV. And the immediate thing that they do once they sign Murakami is Bob Nightingale's out there saying, hey, Luis Robert Jr. might get traded. That seemingly got shut down by the lack of interest in Luis Robert Jr. around Major League Baseball. But I don't think that they're going to go spend, right? So if you are looking for the brigade to come out and maybe fill out this lineup a little bit more, I don't think that brigade is coming. Shout out to Ryan, who says, remember to give the video a like. Hit that like button like Ryan did. We are going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. If you do have any thoughts, let us know in the comments. But I think that this team has a ton of potential, and that's exciting. Murakami could be a 40 homer guy. Robert, obviously, we know the 5 WAR potential that he could put up. Colson Montgomery put up elite power numbers in his later half of his rookie season. Kyle Teal was excellent in his first 71 games as a rookie catcher. There's a ton of potential there, but there's also ways that these guys regress, because normally baseball players have to go through the ups and downs of a baseball career. It's not just, knocking 30 homers every single year. And KJ Russ is right. No Bellinger or Bichette. I do not think that they're signing Bo Bichette or Cody Bellinger. I'm not against it. But no, it seems like they're likely going to sign a fifth starter, and that's about it.
What about Kyle Tucker?
Kyle Tucker is a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fair point that you bring up. Kyle Tucker is a free agent. I don't think he's going to be a White Sox, though.
Cubs don't want him.
No, he plays right field. I mean, if they signed Kyle Tucker to a 1-year, $50 million deal,
that'd be like the best thing ever.
I would probably get a Kyle Tucker tag.
And honestly, what I would really hope from the bottom of my heart is I hope he plays and exceeds all the numbers he did with the Cubs with you guys. I hope it turns into an Andrew Vaughn. He's like just exceeding all expectations and just did not perform with the Cubs for whatever reason, but performs with the White Sox.
Well, hold on. That's funny because I was looking up. I'll bring up this. We're going to talk about Yoán Moncada in a second. But I tweeted this on the 18th of August when they were booing Kyle Tucker at Wrigley. I said, man, I wish I could boo a 375 on base percentage hitter. What a dream. And then I tweeted, White Sox hitters with a 370 plus on base percentage in a single season, minimum 500 plate appearances since 2014. 2014, Jose Abreu. 2017, Avi Garcia. 2022, Jose Abreu. And 2021, Yoán Moncada, which was funny because they did boo 2021 Yoán Moncada. But yeah, if they sign Kyle Tucker, I'll lose it. It's not happening though. So thank you, Sarah, for the delusion juice. You got Uncle Ted riled up in the chat. We're going to take a break here on CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll be back with some Lucas Giolito and Yoán Moncada talk. We want to let you know about our friends over at Bet365. There is one more week of NFL regular season action before we hit playoffs, and you got to make sure that you're taking advantage of the great offers throughout the NFL season with our friends over at Bet365. First up, the early payout offer. Your team is a winner, or you are a winner if your team goes up by 17 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections. And with Sunday Night Football coming to an end soon, you got to take advantage of the $365,000 jackpot. If you place a $10 bet on the first touchdown scorer, you get a split of $65,000 in bonus bets if your player scores the final touchdown of the game. So go check out our friends over at Bet365. If you place a bet of $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins or loses. So sign up using the code CHGO365. If your bet wins or loses, bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365. Must be 21 plus. If you or someone who has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER in-app only. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Shady Rays. Although it is the winter, the snow is very, very, very bright. Even when the sun isn't out, that gray just kind of covering the sky can also blind you. You need premium quality sunglasses. That's why our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. They are the best sunglasses. They're made for real life. You could sit on them. You could throw them. You could try to crack them. They won't break. They're just extremely well made. They're polarized as well. Typically, if you're pulling something off the rack at a superstore or whatever, they're not going to be polarized. These are truly the best investment that you can make. And not only will you get 35% off your polarized sunglasses, you also get Shady Rays covering your back. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. There's no guilt trip, just replacements. Shady Rays is the eyewear that has your back. So head over to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for your shades. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Shadyrays.com, code CHGO for 35% off. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. And again, we are approaching 100,000 subscribers on this very YouTube channel. We'll be live at 11 a.m. tomorrow as we get closer and closer to 100,000 subscribers. We were under 700 away, so if you haven't already, you can help us crawl to that number. We're at 310, 99,310. So we are 690 away from 100,000 subscribers. So join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. I had a big hearty chuckle when Francis Romero tweeted out that several teams, including the Angels, the Pirates, and Blue Jays, have shown early interest in free agent third baseman Yoán Moncada per sources. Despite thumb and knee issues, Moncada had a solid 2025 and can contribute even more next season among the third basemen. Here's the thing. There's one team that I didn't mention. I mentioned the Angels, I mentioned the Pirates, and I mentioned the Blue Jays. Francis Romero says that the White Sox have interest in Yoán Moncada. This shouldn't be so surprising. If you look at the available free agent third baseman, I don't blame them. If you were a person that maybe had one girlfriend in your life and then you broke up with that girlfriend and 2 years later, that girlfriend's still single and you're still single, it's not crazy that you're like, well, clearly I'm, insufferable to everybody else. That one person was able to tolerate me 2 years ago. Maybe, just maybe, we can make it work. And again, if I'm bringing up Sam Antonacci as a left-handed hitter, Moncada's a beautiful left-handed swinger. So I don't hate the idea of Moncada, mainly because third baseman is just so disgusting. But Dan from the 219 saying, more like no on Moncada. Am I right? You're right. I don't think that they're going to be spending on Yoán Moncada. And I think mostly it's just the White Sox doing due diligence, like, hey, is he healthy? What would it cost? Right? Like, I think this is more just poking, and Francisco clearly finding the humor in it, because if that was a reunion to happen, I'd laugh my ass off if Yoán Moncada came back to the White Sox. It would be utterly hilarious if that somehow makes its way to to coming to fruition. I don't think it's the worst signing possible. I'd like Ramon Urias more than Yoán Moncada, but it's better than Paul DeJong, as Ryan's bringing up. Could the White Sox bring in someone like Paul DeJong back to platoon at third base? I'd rather take Yoán Moncada. And man, that's a real disgusting sentence to say. But if it's the options of Paul DeJong or Yoán Moncada, I'll take potential. Anyways, Jon Heyman going down this line as well. A couple days ago, talking about the starters that are still available. I do think that they're going to sign one more starter. And KJ in the chat brought up Lucas Giolito, another funny reunion that could possibly happen. Heyman mentioned starters still available: Framber Valdez, Tatsuya Imai, Ranger Suarez, Zach Gallen, Chris Bassett, Lucas Giolito, Zach Eflin, who Eflin actually is now signed with the Orioles, so he's back in Baltimore. Nick Martinez, Verlander, Max Scherzer. He also includes Tyler Mahle, Patrick Corbin, Miles Michaelis, Zach Littell, Sugano, who I don't know his first name, so my bad on that. Jose Quintana, Aaron Savale, Tyler Anderson, Jose Urquidy, Griffin Canning, Tony Gonsolin, not Mike Montgomery, Eric Fetty, Walker Buehler, Michael Lorenzen, Chris Paddock, and Nestor Cortez. If we're looking at those names, very easily cross off Valdez. Cross off Suarez, he'll make too much money. Gallen, I think he'll want to be with more of a contender. There was that weird report that he signed with the Cubs, and then nothing came of that. I don't know what the rumored money was for Gallen on that one, but I don't think Gallen will be it. Bassett, I don't hate. I don't know if Bassett would want to come back, but I like the pitchability of Bassett. I like the junk ballness of Bassett. If you want Bassett to wear 4 earned runs that he gave up in the first inning, he can give you 7 innings pitched. And I don't hate their idea of needing a ton of volume and going after a guy that can give you a ton of volume and, a decent amount of quality. I mean, Bassett isn't terrible. Giolito, I would truly hate. I would rather go with the funnier Marcus Semien, Chris Bassett cast-offs than going back to Lucas Giolito. Giolito seemed like a fine person, young kid, going through some stuff in his personal life near the end with the White Sox. So I don't know if it's necessarily just faded talent, but if I have to watch him just throw that changeup over and over again to hitters and then start to spit on it and just realize that if he throws his fastball or slider in the zone at all, it's going 400 feet, I just don't need to watch that again. If it's going to happen with Chris Bassett, let it happen with Chris Bassett. I've already kind of stained my memory of Lucas Giolito. I don't need to stain that further. He's a fine person. Keep him away from the South Side. It's just not a marriage that I'd like to see again. Eflin's gone. Martinez, he was a reliever turned to a starter. I think he's better off as a reliever. And Verlander and Scherzer would likely go to contenders. I don't think they're going to be pitching with the White Sox. So out of the first, decent bunch, Bassett seems possible. I didn't bring up Imai because honestly, if it's like a Murakami situation, are they in on Imai? Apparently, Imai hasn't gotten an official offer. I think that will change. But as we got closer and closer to the deadline, there was no reporting on Munetaka Murakami, and then there was reporting on Munetaka Murakami and the White Sox, and then Munetaka Murakami was a White Sox. I don't want to say they're pursuing Imai, but I do know that they're taking their Asian scouting very, very seriously. David Keller spoke very highly of getting into the NPB and the KBO. Imai would be, if at the right price, a fun investment, just like Murakami was. So I don't know if I'd rule out Imai, because with Murakami, if it's the right price, it could possibly be marketed the right way. So Bassett, maybe. Imai, I'll give it 3% chance of happening. But outside of that, the other guys, Valdez, Suarez, Gallen, Bassett, or Giolito, Eflin, Martinez, Verlander, Scherzer, I'm not buying it. Mahle could be interesting. Mahle has a ton of control, and he's coming off Tommy John surgery. I'd be interested in Mahle. I think that the control is real, and I think that his velocity might tick up a little bit again. So I like Tyler Mahle as a possibility. Corbin would be a true inning eater, but I would hate to see Patrick Corbin on the South Side. He seems like a guy that can absolutely just be done after a month if his numbers are real disgusting and terrible. Miles Michaelis, same thing, really no upside. He's just old. Zach Littell has former connections, I think, to Brian Bannister, so I wouldn't rule that out completely. Sugano, I really don't know anything about. I don't even know his first name. I got to be honest with you. Quintana, I don't think they're going to sign another lefty. They signed Kay, similar ilk. I don't think a Quintana reunion is going to happen. I think it's more likely they reunite with Bassett or Giolito. Savale, maybe, but he really wasn't impressive the last time he was out. I know I brought up lefties with Tyler Anderson and Anthony Kay, but Anderson was really decent with the Dodgers. I don't know if he's got anything left in the tank, but camp invite, wouldn't hate it. Jose Urquidy and Griffin Canning, 2 names I'm interested in. Urquidy was really, really good when he came up with the Astros. Could they possibly change, mold some pitch shapes, and find his ability with his cutter to like unlock him again? Urquidy, I think, is interesting. Canning ruptured his Achilles, but he was a really interesting signing pre-2025. His 16 games with the Mets weren't like crazy, but I think that there is a possibility once he comes back and is healthy, maybe in the middle of the year, that he could be a guy that could contribute. And I think he could be a guy that maybe you give like $3 million for this year, and then you give him $10 million for 2026 or 2027, and then you have a starter possibly in Griffin Canning for next year. So I like Canning on like the idea of an investment. Tearing an Achilles is not cool, not fun. Seems like a pain to come back from. But yeah, I wouldn't hate that. And then you look at Gonsolin. I guess I wouldn't hate that. He's like solid, but Fetty and Buehler would be disgusting. Lorenzen I don't hate just because he's extremely athletic. And Paddock, I think that he's got a really nice changeup that maybe he could become still a better pitcher. He's just like a really big guy. So maybe in the vein of Shane Smith, it just needs to kind of work at it. Obviously, they're not near the same ages at all. But Paddock, just a very formerly thought of high prospect that it really has never worked out for him, but not a guy that I'm completely consistently out on. Uncle Ted's ready to trade for Cole Reagans and Joe Ryan. I think it'd be really fairly stupid too. No offense. Again, like that was the whole issue with the White Sox was they'd build up a farm system and they immediately would trade it away. There's no reason to go in on Joe Ryan. There's no reason to go in on Cole Reagans. Yeah, sure, maybe you could make the postseason, but everything would need to go right. And if everything doesn't go right, then Cole Reagans and Joe Ryan are just leaving and you have no prospects and you have no pitching. Because, again, famously, our owner said that he's not going to get 10 years to a pitcher, and that means he's just not going to pay a free agent pitcher. You're not going to see them signing a pitcher to a $100 million contract. Something Cole Reagans will get, something Joe Ryan will get. The White Sox trade away players like Cole Reagans and Joe Ryan. They don't acquire them. So, again, you could say F them prospects. That's not what the organization's doing. Let's wrap it up. Shout out to Sarah for producing the show. Again, we are on our road to 100,000 subscribers. If you do want to join our journey, we're going to be live at 11 a.m. on our road to 100,000 subscribers. Hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. I'd love to run the White Sox like a video game. It's just unfortunately not real life. Let's talk to you tomorrow. We're going to do that live show at 11 a.m. on our road to 100,000 subscribers, but then I'll have a show at 4:30 to talk more White Sox. Might be pushed back a little bit from 4:30, but we will have a White Sox show for you tomorrow. For Sarah, I'm Sean. We will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.